up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1745 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Toronto's Waterfront BIA. Check out what's happening on Toronto's waterfront this summer. Blue Sky Agency, the official distributor of Silen's quiet, comfortable, and customizable office pods. Create sanctuary within your workspace. Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. Get your butts to Christie Pitts. We got one more game Saturday night and then the playoffs. Best baseball in the city outside the dome. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd, it's Damien Cox. How are you, Damien?
I said I would show up for episode 1745, and here I am. I'm just leafing through this Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, pun
baseball.
intended, because you're leafing through it.
Yes, correct.
You haven't missed a beat. Listen, that's broadcasting expertise right there. Yeah, so
This is very cool.
how long has it been since you've been to Christie Pitts for a Toronto Maple Leafs
I've
game?
never been to
Really?
Christie Pitts for a Toronto Maple Leafs
And you're a
game.
Toronto guy? Well, you are
Well,
now.
I'm a Hamilton guy transplanted to Toronto, but of late I've been thinking more and more about, and have been going to see different kinds of sporting events other than the highest professional level, and really enjoying it. And so I'd actually said to my son, we should go to a Toronto Maple Leafs game this summer. And now you say their last game is tomorrow night. Or Saturday night.
Playoffs. So let's. So we're in the funny thing about this IBL, okay? And I was at the last two Saturday night games, and I was thoroughly entertained. Ask me what my ticket cost to see the Leafs at Christie Pitts.
Mike, what did your ticket cost?
Nothing, Damien.
Oh.
Zero. So the best value. You can have a beer, you can have a hot dog. It's a great time. But I was at the last two games, great times. But every team in the IBL except for one makes the playoffs. Like this is it's like we make fun of the CFL because everyone makes the playoffs. But almost literally, one team does not make the playoffs in the IBL. So the Leafs have made the playoffs, even though they didn't have a great year. But I think, Damien, this is what I think. We collect at Christie Pitts for the playoff game. We're guaranteed to have at least one playoff game at Christie Pitts. That should be the game you attend.
So that'll be next week?
Well, that's the thing is yesterday I was saying, what's the schedule? We're going to have that schedule like within the next week. I'll email you the day and time.
That would be great.
And if you'd have a great time. And you'll know the history of the team because I'm giving you a book from Maple Leafs. You can brush up on all your Butler Leafs Spoljaric history.
Well, I was going to say that here in episode 1745, it takes like 20 minutes for you to announce all the sponsors. And at a certain point, me now being of a certain vintage, I start to nod off. So you might want to get that done before I actually sit down in the chair.
Would you reveal your vintage? Would you reveal your age? How old is Damien Cox now?
I'm going in another week and a half. I'm going to be, in fact, my daughter, I think it was my daughter one of my daughters said to me recently, Dad, didn't the Beatles write a song about when I'm 64? And I said, yes, they did. So I will be 64.
All right. Well, you look great. I think you look good for a 64-year-old. And we were joking before I pressed record of the Passion Returns Damien Cox, who had that head of hair, like a mullet, basically. It was a mullet. And you made a joke because I think you're one of the only Toronto Mic'd guests who left blood on the ceiling. Like you smashed your head so hard. Like, did you get concussed? I mean, have you had any CAT scans since then? Are you okay?
I have not. I have been concussed more than once in the course of living, but I don't remember being concussed that particular time, although I think I had to do a TV thing relatively after that, and so the makeup people were busy covering up the gash in my head. Not the first and only time they had to do that.
Well, my lawyer, Lauren Honickman, wants me to tell you the statute of limitations, it's expired. You can't sue me for that wound.
Is Lauren still practicing?
Yeah. He's trying. Okay, so Lauren and I are good friends, and we communicate often. And he's, for years now.
City TV.
Oh, absolutely. And then he parlayed that into like legal specialist on CP24 when Chum City launched that.
He had a good media career.
And then he said, "Hey, I'm going to make some real money," and he just practiced law. Mm-hmm. But his heart's in radio. Like, I mean, I think I don't want to tell like the powers that be at Bell or Rogers, but I suspect, well, it'd be Bell, I guess, because he'd probably end up on either 1010 or 640. But I suspect he would do shifts on those stations for free. Like, that's how much he loves being on the radio.
I think everybody's heart is in radio, and which is, radio's changing. Well, I guess radio and our podcast radio?
No. Well, there's no like CRTC interference here.
Right. But I think, it's the best medium for long form discussions that probably exists now. Whether it's radio or podcasts or some merging of the same. So, and it's kind of always been that way, but now it really stands alone, I think, more than was ever the case.
Well, we're about to do 6 hours as evidence that you can have a long form conversation in this medium.
I'll be here for the next 15 minutes of that 6 hours.
You'll nod off and I'll just keep going. Okay. So we're catching up here. So how are you doing? It's been a while. I'll briefly run down like appearances, but I'm just checking your last visit, which was December 2023. How is life for Damien Cox?
Life is fantastic. It's excellent, wonderful, very fulfilling. What are the other words I can use? All those things. You're
nourished.
I'm happy as a clam. I'm going to be a grandfather for the first time in the coming months. So that's incredibly exciting. All 4 kids are doing amazing. My wife, who is a lawyer, is doing amazingly well in her work and in running the entire group of us. And we've had some family things like everybody does with aging parents and all that sort of stuff. But things are very, very, very good.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because I'm a Cox fan. Okay, I got to be careful how I phrase that, but I am a Cox fan, and I whenever you're on, it's always the same reaction, which is a lot of people are like excited to hear from you, and a lot of people are excited to tell me they won't be listening.
I'm sorry. For that.
No, listen, I made this happen because I wanted to catch up with you. So quickly, because I have many questions. Oh, one question before I even do this recap is: did you catch any of the Coldplay shows at the new Rogers Stadium?
No, I did not. Well, I'll tell you 2 things. One, I did see them, I think the previous time they were in Toronto. I went with 3 of my kids, and we had the best time. That was at Rogers Centre, and that was fantastic. So I would have gone to see them, and the new stadium really doesn't have anything to do with it for me. But I find the prices for a lot of these concerts absurd, just absurd. And so I'm less inclined to participate. I think it's just a huge money grab. Now, I've seen some really good concerts this year, but at really cool things. I went and saw Matt Anderson, who's fantastic, up at West Bend Music Festival up Peterborough Way. Saw James Taylor down at Ontario Place, 77 years old, amazing, still going. And this weekend going to see Sheryl Crow up at the what's the name of it's up at up at Woodbine. They now have a small concert place there, which I've never been to. Cool. So I'm going to go there. So I'm very much into music. I would love to see Coldplay, but I ain't paying that money.
So I'm with you. Like I'm avoiding these monster big expensive shows. I did buy myself a lawn to see Neil Young this coming weekend because I love catching a Neil Young show. So it's like, I can't remember now, $50 to $60 or something gets me in the place.
Where's that?
That's at Budweiser Stage.
Okay.
This coming weekend. I had tickets last summer, and he he canceled the show. Like he was like, I need a break or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's coming back, and I'm into like I loved the Watchmen at the Danforth Music Hall. Like I Trans Canada Highwaymen are coming to the CNE, and I'm going to try to catch them because I love all four guys in Trans Canada Highwaymen. I don't know if you're up to speed on these guys.
Don't know them. Yeah.
Well, one guy's
band?
from Chris Murphy from Sloan, so he plays all his songs from Sloan. He'll sing. Stephen Page, formerly of Bare Naked Ladies.
Okay.
So he'll do like Brian Wilson and all his songs. And who else is in there? Craig Northey from The Odds, who will do some odd songs, and Mo Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness. So it's like you get the best of the four bands, pretty much. It's pretty
funny.
Cool.
I didn't go. I was invited, but I did not go to last night down at, I call it Ontario Place, whatever we want to call it now.
The stage.
The Dust Bowl down there. And it was Styx.
Yeah.
With some members of REO Speedwagon.
But the singer.
And Don Felder.
Okay, how was the show?
My wife said it was very loud. And they didn't play. She said she was a bit confused because they didn't play a lot of the Styx big hits. Like they didn't play Babe.
Wow.
They didn't play Blue Collar Man. They didn't play... I think she said they played Come Sail Away, but they didn't play something else. She said Larry Gowan is now great as the front man for Styx. He did a great job. The Don Felder part, whereas they played a lot of Eagle stuff. She said it was a great show. And it's still a great venue, and it's so sad that they're going to remodel it, and it'll never be the same. I think they're going to turn it into a Four Seasons kind of event, which means it'll never be like it is now. So we should urge people, if you want to know what, I think it was probably and has probably been the best place to see a concert in Toronto for a long time. The shows I've seen there, Zach Brown Band, a pilot, saw Blue Rodeo there a few times.
They've played that venue more than any other artist.
Have they? Okay.
I just had Colin Cripps on, and we confirmed. Yeah, so no artist has played that.
Who's better? Who's better than Colin Cripps? He's awesome Hamilton guy, amazing guitarist. I know Colin a little bit, although I haven't seen him in a number of years. And that's very cool that he's...
Kathleen Edwards wrote a song about breaking up with him.
Yeah, did she?
Yeah, and
they were a lovely couple when they were together. That's when I knew them, and then I knew Colin a little bit. One of the great music experiences of my life was Dave Hodge and I went up to Barrie. I can't give you a year what this would have been, and it was Kathleen Edwards was opening for the Tragically Hip. So
at Molson Park.
No,
it wasn't
at the arena. It was It was in the dead of winter.
Okay,
and went backstage, met Gord. Of course, he wanted to talk more about hockey than about music, and then sat there as Gord and Kathleen worked out, and Colin was there, worked out what they were going to play together, and it was an amazing a musical experience.
So Cripps, fantastic, because not only he's got the Kathleen, he did a lot of production of her work and played with her, of course, and they were married 7 years. But of course, then Kathleen Edwards leaves him for Bon Iver. So this was like, it's funny talking to Colin's open book about it all, and it was quite a conversation. But he was also in Junk House with Hamiltonian's great Tom Wilson.
I think I know. I think he's still living in Hamilton, down Hamilton.
Tom?
No, Colin.
Oh, I think Colin lives here now.
Oh,
I think he moved to Toronto.
Did he? Kathleen, I've seen a bunch of times, a bunch of places, and I thought she's been through a lot, I think, and some different, and I thought her last album was maybe her best. So maybe a little bit of living has done well for her, and Colin's obviously done great with Jim Cuddy and those guys, and
yes.
It's great to see them still going, still sounding great.
So yeah, he's always had a relationship with those guys because he was in Crash Vegas with Greg Keeler back in the day.
Okay.
So that was great because Greg Keeler was dating Michelle McAdory. Oh, man. Niece of Bob McAdory, by the way. So we're going to connect all these dots. So yeah, so it's also...
This is like turning into 1 degree of separation. It's like...
that's the Canadian music biz. It's all one... That's kind of what I'm trying to do here is connect all these dots. But because his first professional gig, if you think of a big band, was he was a touring member of Spoons with Burlington band, not Hamilton. So
Nova Heart.
Well, yeah, except this is yes, they have their heyday, right? The peak of Spoons, and that's Nova Heart and Romantic Traffic.
These
and all that.
Spoons are the Spoons.
I asked Gord Depp that in this basement, and he says either or.
Okay.
So whatever.
I was playing golf with some Westdale guys yesterday, and all these dots do connect, and we always start talking about who knew this guy and who knew this guy, and because we all knew each other growing up in the Hamilton, Burlington area.
What a, and then it all comes back to the Lanois. Whenever you're doing these 1 degree things and you start in the hammer, because Jocelyn Lanois was the person who recruited Colin Cripps for Crash Vegas, which was Greg Keeler and Michelle McAdory's band in Toronto. So that's what brings him to Toronto, and he's in Crash Vegas until he's in Junk House with Tom Wilson for that big second album. And then basically does the stuff with his wife, Kitty, as he calls her, and does a lot of stuff with Jim Cuddy, and then gets recruited to replace Greg Keeler because Greg Keeler has tinnitus. And there you go. Now you've got it all. Okay, so I'm going to burn through. So
see, that's why I come here, to learn stuff.
Well, the thing is, I could have you over and we could... I don't even know. How closely are you following sports these days?
I have my wife sworn to secrecy. Don't tell people how little I watch, which is not actually true.
You got to own it, man.
No, I mean, I watch lots, but I'm pretty selective. I'm watching the Blue Jays a lot these days. I actually went down to the ballpark 2 nights ago.
I did too.
I think they did a great job with the stadium. I was shocked because I'd heard all this stuff. Oh, they did this and it's fantastic. And I went, yeah. It's still the Dome. And I went down there and I thought, boy, they really did do some great stuff down here. So,
and this was Tuesday night. You were there?
Yeah.
Where you beat the Cubs. So
80,000 hot dogs.
Okay, so that
I contributed 4.
My daughter took me to that game.
Yeah.
So we were in the same building.
Yeah, it was a good night, wasn't it? We had a friend up from Costa Rica who was there, and he was just blown away. Thought it was the most amazing.
Firstly, the dome was full. Like that's and it was a stormy kind of night, so they closed that roof, unfortunately.
Which is too bad.
Yeah, but it was like the forecast looked like 40% chance of thunder showers or something. So I get it, but okay, I guess that's why you have a dome. But it was full, and it was a passionate, loud crowd, and the team played well. Like, I mean, and the team's in first place, and we're gonna cover. Here's what we're gonna do. So I have things I want to, check in with you.
You asked me a question, then
what was my question?
Get to answer. Your question was, how much do I follow sports?
Oh yeah, I thought you were kind of, I selective, and I thought we kind of uncovered as we go along. But if you have more to say on that subject, Damien, please.
No, carry on.
So I'm now going to burn through previous Damien Cox episodes of Toronto Mike, and if there's anything in the description you want to touch on, you can of course chime in. But then I have my my little notes here. This is all like
ancient history, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it starts 10 years ago. So your first visit, and maybe this is when the blood was on the ceiling, February 2015. So we're going back a decade.
So
Episode 110.
1 year after I'd left the Star, or a matter of month after I'd left the Star and was gone full time at the Sportsnet.
You got it. So here's the description. Mike chats with longtime Toronto Star journalist and Rogers broadcaster Damien Cox about his years at the Star, on the Fan 590, and on TSN and Rogers Hockey. And then we also talked about your Twitter behavior, and there's some great old audio of you, I think, from Bloj Salming, if I'm getting that right, and Down Goes Brown that I played for you. But are you still active on the app formerly known as Twitter?
No.
How long? And you don't have to give me the exact date, because I have also abandoned my X account. But how long ago do you think you left those?
I've been winding it down, but probably 6 to 8 months. That I don't even look at it anymore.
No, I don't look at it either, actually.
I mean, once in a while, like I don't have it on. I have it on one of my devices now. And actually, I opened it the other day, and I was kind of like, man, there is nothing here. Now, I don't sort of go actively searching, so there's probably more of interest there, but so I have no reason to go back. And but I think it has evolved. I think it was such a big deal in media when it first came out. How many followers people had and all that sort of stuff, until people started understanding there were ways to generate huge number of followers, and a lot of it was kind of bullshit. Excuse my language.
No, I know. I work with guys who bought followers.
Yeah, and it was it ended up being kind of a way to both make yourself a target and be targeted. we were all kind of rookies at it at the same time. And now you look back and say, why would I have written that? Why did I care about that? Why did I respond to this? Why did I get involved in that? But at the time, it seemed to be the thing to do. And media companies were pushing people like myself to be involved, to be active, have a profile. Whereas I don't get the sense that's the case anymore.
No, I think I hope you're right, but I haven't really looked at my account much since April. But so February 2015, we had that great chat, and then you came back in October 2017. It was episode 270.
Yeah, I was boycotting those 3 years. 2 years, I was boycotting. Yep.
Well, I don't think I recorded as often back then. I mean, I had a job until 2018, so I feel like this was a less.
This was more of a vocation.
This was like a side hustle until 2018. So October 2017, this is episode 270. Mike and Damien Cox play and discuss his 10 favorite songs of all time.
Yes,
but we did have another
enjoyed
chat.
that.
So you kicked out the jams.
I enjoyed that very much, and even from our discussions, I love music. I spent a lot of my time. I probably spend more time with music and reading about music than I do in sports in a lot of ways right now. But
Me too,
by the way, Florence and the Machine was maybe the best show I ever saw at Ontario Place. It was coming to me. I was thinking, who is the one? It was an amazing show.
Dog days are over for Damien.
Yep. So yeah, that was, and it's funny. I'd gone back and revisited that a little bit, and a couple of times thought, I wonder if I'd changed that now in the 10 years, because I hope I have. I hope I would. I mean, I'm not one who still listens to Darkness on the Edge of Town over and over and over again, and only music of the 70s or whatever. And I try to. My kids are hugely helpful. Was always sending me music. So,
Thanks.
I'd like to think my list is evolving.
But there was some new, I know there was Coldplay on there, and you talked. That's why I asked you about Coldplay. And I know you had a Coldplay T-shirt on in our photo by Toronto Tree there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I took mental notes and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. So once in a while you got
my Daredevil T-shirt.
I see that. Okay. The man without fear. That's what you need when you come on.
He was kind of my guy when I was growing up. I loved the Daredevil comics.
Okay, awesome. So the. People should check out the Damien Cox Kicks Out the Gyms. I have to say, I felt I learned more about you as like a human being person in the world from your jam kicking than I did from your initial visit. And I think it's because you opened up about some things you talked about. I can relate completely too. I'm a divorced dad who would, I remember the shared custody years, I'm glad they're in the rearview mirror, but I know how that feels. And then just hearing you talk about the Bruce Springsteen song and the Coldplay and the different memories. We learned a lot about you in episode 270.
Well, I think that people, when they hear you or read you in the newspaper or hear you on the radio, they think they know you, and they don't. And I'm as guilty as that when I see actors and actresses or musicians or whatever. You think you know them, but you don't. And so I would say it's nice to be asked about other things.
Right. That's why we did 20 minutes of music talk off the top, and we'll get some more music in later. But November 2018, you came
watch.
back. Only, you know what?
Am I leaving soon?
You got. I have only if you have a dentist appointment or something.
Are they going to like Happy Kind and the Mirth Makers are going to strike up the band here soon?
That's the Jim Cuddy line. I actually packed up my studio, put it in my bike trailer, biked to Leslieville, and I basically set up in the woodshed, the famous woodshed where Blue Rodeo records and rehearses. And stuff
really?
Like that. And then I had Jim Cuddy. So just Jim Cuddy one-on-one in person at the woodshed, and we're cooking with gas. This is a great chat. I don't know, we're an hour in or whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, I have a dentist appointment in 10 minutes. And so I have this like thought in my head, everybody, like this guy's, I didn't say it to you, but I'm like, you don't have a dentist appointment in 10 minutes. Do you? Like this has just become code.
No, but I have two pretty good Jim Cuddy stories.
Tell me.
I wouldn't say we're friends, but we are acquaintances through other people. And so and both of them were, one night we're down, I think it was like the Sky Diggers somewhere on Queen Street, and we were maybe it was a Christmas show.
Oh, a Horseshoe. Because the Sky Diggers
anyways,
do the
wherever
Christmas
we were
show at the Horseshoe.
And then somehow Jim Cuddy was there with I was part of a group, and then we went down the street to hear his son play. Yeah. So we're like we're with Jim walking down the street to go see there. Actually, I have 3 good stories. And then we see that. So that was a night spent with Jim Cuddy. I don't know if he'd recognize me if he walked in the room right now. He might, because he's a sports fan. But
he's a big hockey fan.
I was part of a dinner one night at a Grey Cup in Calgary, where incredible wine was drank. And I remember him making fun of me at the end of the night for how bow-legged I am. So that was a highlight. And then I always remember, so Springsteen was at the Dome, and it was Rogers had their big box going, and this was during the Keith Pelly years, so lots of people, and Jim was there, and I remember being just fascinated by watching him. I mean, he's an accomplished artist, and we, I don't know if he's in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. I'm sure he is, but
I was there. He is.
He is. He should be.
I was at the
he's one of the greats, in my opinion, in Canadian music. But, despite all that, him sitting in a front row seat and watching the boss do his show and being so into it. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Not sort of standing aside thinking, he's all right. He was in there and part of the show, and I thought that was so. There's 3 Jim Cuddy stories. He probably has none about me.
Well, you know what? Next time I talk to Jim, I'll ask about you. That'll be my first question. What do you know about Damien Cox? Have you heard the Tom Wilson, Bruce Springsteen's tits story?
No, I've heard a lot of Tom Wilson stories. I love listening to Tom Wilson tell stories.
He tells this story on my show, and it was great. And then I'm at the Horseshoe to see Junkhouse. And this is, a couple of winters ago or whatever. And he tells the same story verbatim. And I remember being disappointed. Like, that was like he's just calling these stories. It's not an exclusive. Like, it bugged me. Should I have been bugged that it was like told verbatim? It's a great story. But it wasn't just a Toronto Mike, I'm going to tell you a story or whatever. It was like, this is a story I'm going to tell in multiple places. Well,
and I think you see that more. Like, I now see that with, obviously, I'm not the same as Brad Fay, but I'm a big Springsteen guy. I've probably seen him 25 times.
That's a lot.
But I was so lucky to see him from the 4th row at Springsteen on Broadway, and that was an incredible show. I went with my wife. She's not even a Springsteen fan, and she cried like 5 times. It was just an amazing show. But the next show I saw him in, it was kind of scripted, almost like now that idea of the Springsteen on Broadway was now part of it. It wasn't spontaneous. Now it was still great. He's still a boss. He's still my guy, but it wasn't. And I at that point I thought, okay, I think this is where I get off going to the concerts, because now I'm going to see a scripted concert as opposed to when I first saw him in 1979 or 80, the River Tour, and he played for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was. And you really got the sense back then they were kind of figuring it out as they went along. Well, that's not the case anymore.
Now it's like you're going to see like almost like a Broadway show or
kind of. That was the feeling I got. And you get that. The more you see an artist, the more you kind of like, I've seen Zach Brown Band a few times, and I kind of get the feeling with that a little bit. The more you see an artist, the more likely, because they can't pull out a brand new set of circumstances. Now, I will say, went and saw James Taylor, and he had some, first of all, he's 77 years old. I mean, this is a guy who, how is he alive? He was a heroin addict for 40 years.
Right.
The show begins by him just quietly walking out on stage. Nobody says, "Ladies and gentlemen, James Taylor." Nothing. I mean, this guy is an icon in the folk music scene. He just sort of kind of quietly walks out on stage, grabs his guitar, he starts singing. He goes, "Hello, Toronto. Great to be here." And he said, "So sorry." That's about all I can say. His nod to the whole Trump thing. Yes. And then he went out, and then he had a few moments that it felt spontaneous. He was very quiet, very soft spoken, boy, did he have a group of players with him. He had some outstanding musicians. So
he's got one of the great Simpsons cameos, James.
Oh, does he?
Because he sings.
I've never watched
when Homer's
The
in
Simpsons.
space. Oh my goodness! There's a great episode where Homer goes to space, and James to entertain the astronauts in space. James Taylor's singing a song, and he's doing Fire and Rain. I think he does, but it's great. Now. So I will tell you since your last visit, and I'm still running through these descriptions here, but I have seen Springsteen finally. So basically because of you and Brad Fay and all these people who kept telling me, like, I got to go check this out. I finally had the pleasure of seeing Bruce Springsteen. It was the night after Trump was reelected. So this was the night after. And it was like a religious experience. Like
Where was it?
It was at the Scotiabank Arena.
Okay.
And I actually recorded a special episode of Toronto Mike like the next day where I talked about the experience because you can talk. I just heard you do it. Like I've been hearing guys your vintage tell me forever about what it's like to see Bruce and everything, and you're like, okay, I kind of I've been to some big shows. It sounds like it'd be nice, but honestly, it was like a religious experience. It was unbelievable, and I totally get it now. But you have to go see it to get it.
Yeah, and not to say you missed something, but boy, did you miss something. I mean, in the decades before, it was even more of that. Right?
But I did get 3 hours, and it felt, and maybe it's rehearsed and polished, but it was high energy and
yeah. And he's got such a collection of songs. I mean, and the thrilling thing for me, and I mean, Brad and I, we did a golf trip to Northern Ireland early this summer, so we spent some time. And
I was going to ask how Brad's doing.
Brad's doing great.
And is he hit the 100 mark long ago, right, with Bruce?
Yeah, and he's in fact on this trip I met him we picked up a car in Dublin, and he'd been to see Bruce in Paris. I mean, he is just over the top and just loves it. It's
I got to get
such a
Bruce.
passion.
I got to get Brad back on the show. I was going to say I got to get Bruce on the show. I got to work on that too, but I got to get Brad on the show.
Yeah, Brad's still going strong and all that. But we can talk about music. But the great thing about Bruce is like, you'll get a lot of people who just want to hear Born to Run and Under Road and stuff. I've loved his last 3 or 4 albums. So this is a guy who's now, whatever he is, 76, 70, whatever.
Yeah, around there.
I mean, his last few albums have been outstanding for me. So he's still producing great music, and he's got an album coming out. So, it's not like, I mean, you mentioned Neil Young. I know he came out with an album last year, but he hasn't produced the same quality of stuff, I don't think, in a long, long time. Most of these guys have their sweet spot, and, James Taylor hasn't had a great... I mean, Bruce is still churning out, in my opinion, outstanding stuff, which makes it pretty cool.
Long may he was born to run. Long may he run. Shout out to Neil Young. See you this weekend, Uncle Neil. Now, November 2018, you returned, and this is episode 403. See, obviously, I like chatting with you because I keep getting you back every year or so. Mike chats with Sportsnet's Damien Cox about why he's no longer on Primetime Sports. Changes at Hockey Night in Canada. That's evergreen, that one. Okay. His new book about the 92-93 Leafs, speaking of the passion returning, and much more. So we had another great chat. And do you have any relationship today with the host of Primetime Sports, Bob McCowan?
I'd have to look on my phone, but I probably exchanged messages with him a few months ago.
That's recent.
Yeah, I mean, Bob and I were never friends. We were business associates.
But is anyone really a friend of Bob McCowan?
I don't, I can't say. I can't speak to that. But I know he had some health challenges. I'm hoping he's doing well. I mean, I've been kind of out of it since 2019, since I left Sportsnet. I mean, I still write and do stuff. But time really does give you some perspective on the whole thing. It really, really does. And I'm not one of those people who will tell you how great it was when I was doing it. And I'm definitely not one of those people who has bitter, oh, this happened.
Right.
I'm thrilled I got to be on Hockey Night in Canada for a couple of years. I'm thrilled to be co-host of Primetime Sports, I think on 3 different occasions, plus a million other appearances. I'm thrilled I got to work with Bob and Dave Hodge and, just a ton of really, really good people, some of the best, and, be part of writing staffs with Dave Perkins and Milt Dunnell and Jim Proudfoot and Wayne Parrish. And I mean, I've been so blessed in that regard. So, I think at that time, probably in 2018, it would only be another year or so that I was at Sportsnet.
Well, glad you mentioned that, because on April 2019, you returned for episode 451.
Yeah.
Mike chats with Damien Cox about why he's no longer at Sportsnet.
Yeah, and I think at that time, I can't remember what I said, but I was both disappointed and kind of relieved. I think looking back, I was pretty burnt out. I've been going pretty hard since 1985. And in fact, last December I wrote something in the Star, and it was the 40th anniversary of that I'd been writing things for the Toronto Star. So, I think you're always disappointed when your association with a company you enjoy ends, but it was over. There's probably more I could have done, but I didn't really have the role there that was perfect. And, to be honest, I was getting paid too much. And I think what we've seen and what's happening with a lot of those companies now, if you get paid too much, you become a target. So
isn't that shitty though? Because the goal is to, make as much money as you can, your value and everything. But what it does is puts a big target on your back, where it seems like the way to last is to be undervalued, underpaid. Like that's
work for less. Yeah.
I think
that too. And I think there's people out there who are good evidence of that. Now that said, when I left the Star as a full-time employee in 2014, I left with a handshake agreement that I would continue to write columns for them. I continue to write columns for them 11 years later. We have no contract. We have no other than we just keep going. So, who gets to have that relationship with a major media company where, like I said, I don't even have a contract. I don't have anything. I just do stuff. So There's the good and the bad.
November 2021. This is episode 945, and that gap might be like a COVID thing. Yeah, we're in COVID times now. Yeah. But I guess we were allowed in the basement because I did a lot of backyard episodes, but you never did a backyard episode, right? Okay, so you were down here.
Yes, I did. Did you do one with Gord?
In the backyard?
I think we did.
Okay, so because I do have Gord coming up here. So November 2021 was episode 945. Mike chats with Damien Cox about his Twitter persona. So clearly you were a polarizing figure on Twitter back when I used to enjoy being on that app, which is seems like a long time ago now. But we talked about why you bother, your blocking, that's a great question, your blocking strategy, sports media in 2021, Angelo Mosca, and your new book, A League of Our Own. So that was another catch-up in November 2021. July 2022, this is episode 1084. This was... I wrote here the description. Mike reunites Gord Stellick and Damien Cox. And just to tie that with your most recent visit, which was December 2023, that was episode 1387. Mike chats with Gord Stellick and Damien Cox about the Ohtani hype, John Lennon, the 77-78 Toronto Maple Leafs, because you guys wrote a book called Revival, John Cordick, and more. So the last two times you've been here in Toronto, Mike, you've been with Gord Stellick.
Well, he's always crowding me, right? He was never let me have the stage to myself.
Well, Gord. That's what today is.
Always, getting into the spotlight. So this is a nice opportunity to set you straight on our relationship.
Well, here's a surprise for you. Gord, come on down.
Hit your head on the way down.
Well, that is the kind of thing I would do. But still good friends with Gord?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gord and I are lifelong friends. We don't see each other, spend each other. We kind of travel in different orbits. He's up Cricket Club way and playing lots of tennis, doing lots of curling, lots of family stuff he's got going on. I'm in the West End and have my whole thing. But, Gord's one of those guys who I love him and we'll be friends forever.
Awesome to hear that. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of gifts here, and then I'm going to start hitting you with the questions that have come in for Damien Cox. Now the intro's over. No, you know what? I never wore a watch. I haven't worn a watch for decades, but my wife bought a new Garmin watch, and she had this one on my wrist, and she said, "Do you want to try this?" And
Is this for cycling or for golf?
So it does the heart rate. So it's kind of neat. I don't know. There's like some.
Are you going
fun...
to give me a Garmin watch? Because I need a new golf watch.
When Garmin becomes a sponsor, you're going to be the first recipient of a Garmin watch. But I got the hand-me-down here, and it was vibrating because I was getting a phone call, and I might have glanced at it to see who was calling, like out of like habit. But I'm not taking a call. I'm not Alan Cross, okay? I'm not taking a call. I wouldn't do that to you. This is you have my full attention here. What's my gift? I
could say the same.
Do you still enjoy a fresh can of craft beer?
I do.
Would you like some Great Lakes beer for you?
I would.
Would you like for you? Okay. Well, I have some fresh cans here of Great Lakes.
Oh, what a surprise.
Is that why you're here, Damien? Come on.
They make good beer.
And it's in South Etobicoke. They make that beer.
I like their premium lager. I particularly, I'm not a pale ale guy. What's this summer?
Oh, it's called Summer Ale. It's quite nice. It's like ginger, and it's quite nice.
Well, they have the Canuck Pale Ale.
Well, you know what? I'll swap out. So if you're a bigger lager guy, I'll like swap out the pale ale. I'll swap it out for you.
But I'm actually excited to see local brewers do well. And everywhere I go now, I'm always looking for the local lager. So hopefully people are doing the same when they come to Toronto.
Hopefully. They're fiercely independent. You know, those big conglomerates, they park the Brinks truck in the Great Lakes driveway, and Peter Bullitt tells them to get that off our property. We don't want that here. So they're fiercely independent. So love working with Great Lakes. Speaking of fiercely independent, I've been working with Palma Pasta for years. And I'm excited to tell you, Damien, there is a frozen lasagna in my freezer for you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Palma Pasta. Everybody.
I don't want to know what else is in that freezer.
It's all lasagna.
Having had it before, it's outstanding.
And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community. We just released a new episode of Life's Undertaking yesterday. Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home records that podcast with me. But Ridley Funeral Home is sending a measuring tape for you, Damien Cox.
It goes to exactly 6 feet deep. Is that the whole idea?
That's it. You got to make sure you're 6 feet under. Did you ever see the show 6 Feet Under?
No.
Okay, excellent show. I don't know if you watch TV. You have no time for TV.
I watch TV.
Okay, well, 6 Feet Under is only like I'd say it's one of the top 3 shows I've ever seen in my entire life. That's how much I enjoy 6 Feet Under. Top 3 show for me.
What's it about?
It's about a family that lives on the premises of the family-owned funeral home.
Oh.
And similarly, Ridley Funeral Home, they live on the premises of their funeral home. And Brad tells me they're the last family in the city to live on the premises of the funeral home.
Okay.
Like back in the day, this is how it was. But nowadays, I think they're the last family standing with Ridley Funeral Home.
Okay.
Here's a name I'm going to ask you about because my guest yesterday was a rising, aspiring country singer, and we had a great chat, actually. Her name is Bree Taylor, and she was telling me about her grandfather, and she dropped this name and told me what he was up to, and I'm like, how come I don't know this name? And then I find out it's because I'm too young. I missed his era, if you will. But do you know the name John Badham?
Yes.
So John Badham,
sportscaster.
Yeah, like covered Argos games.
Yeah.
So this guy's been around. He was apparently the voice of like the Wolf in Peterborough.
Great set of pipes.
Yeah, I think he worked in Saskatchewan, and then he came here and covered the Argos and called games, Argo games on the radio, I think, for years. So I missed John Badham, but I just wondered if you knew him because apparently, if you're a little older than me, you definitely know John Badham, and his granddaughter is an aspiring country singer who was here yesterday.
Well, I'll have to have a listen. There are some. I love those relationships. It's like, you ever listen to Coulter Wall?
Yeah, yes, because my barber plays Coulter Wall every time I get a haircut. Shout out to Andy.
Outstanding. Yeah. Hi, Andy.
Deep voice.
And his father, you know who his father is?
Tell me.
Was the former premier of Saskatchewan, Brad Wall.
Okay, see this. So he plays this Coulter Wall for me, and it's very good. But that voice, it's like there's a voice for you.
Yeah, no, he's great, and he's, you speak about Great Lakes Brewery being fiercely independent. I think Coulter Wall is, and one of his things is he does not come east. When he performs, it's in the West and in Saskatchewan, Alberta. He's not interested in Ontario. Well, there you go. But some of these, obviously the Neil Young, who you mentioned, of course, son of Scott Young.
Yes.
These relationships are always interesting.
Always interesting. Okay, first question for you, Damien Cox, comes from Brian Gerstein. Brian, a long-time listener and contributor to the program. You might have come over at least once when you got a Property in the 6 mug or anything? Have you ever got a glass for me, like Property in the 6? Or maybe you missed it. Okay, well, shout out to Property in the 6. Shout out to Brian Gerstein.
You probably gave it to Gord.
I gave it to Gord took 2 home. He's like, screw it, these are mine. I'm going to read Brian. It's a little long here. I'm sure Damien,
that's me,
as a huge tennis fan, and he's making some assumptions. I don't actually like the assumptions. Like, I feel like ask the question and you tell us whether you are. Like, it's like they assume things. I don't think it's a good move, but I'm going to read it. Sure. Okay. I'm sure that Damien, as a huge tennis fan, is very bullish on Victoria Mboko.
Mboko, yeah.
And what lies ahead for her. What impressed you the most? This is for you. What impressed you the most? Was it her actual tennis skills, highlighted by one of the best backhands in the game right now, displayed on the court en route to her championship? Or her ability to focus on every point, Rafa-like, what praise that is, with her mental toughness to wear her opponents out even after falling behind a set? Please talk to me about Victoria.
Well, probably a bit of everything. I mean, she's probably... she's a different player than Bianca Andreescu was or is, but she might be the most complete female player to come through in maybe ever. And when I look at young players and in their potential, I always look for weapons. Do they have weapons? Because in tennis today, to really get there, you've got to have weapons. You can be a great all-around player and fast, and you can compete, but without weapons, you're going to have a hard time getting to the top. And he mentioned her backhand, but her serve, she can really serve. So it's going to be fascinating to see where she goes, because it's way too early to even project. She hasn't even played 20 professional or WTA matches yet.
Right.
So where she's headed, I can't exactly say, but it's sure exciting.
And I know at some point you were doing work with Tennis Canada.
Yep, a little bit.
Do you still do work with Tennis Canada?
No
more.
Just did a little bit with them after I left Sportsnet, but there wasn't really, I at that point in time particularly, I don't think I was so ambitious to go out and start mining new possibilities.
You weren't going to go hustling.
No, that's
probably
fair. That's probably fair. Well, as I said to you, I think I was kind of burnt out too. I think I really was. I sort of had enough.
No, you put in some time, right? Some hard time. The follow up though about Victoria, it's Mboko. Can you say the name for me? You say
Victoria Mboko.
Mboko. So you just Mboko. Yeah. I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah. Okay. Alan Gold writes in. And I think he gets this term actually from Hebsy on Sports, because he refers to this, with particularly with Bianca. But any chance Victoria is a flash in the pan / one-hit wonder? So do you have a crystal ball there, Mr. Cox?
No. Well, as I said, we just don't know.
She's 18.
Yeah. All the great signs are there. She seems to have her family and a great group around her, so those are huge things. But the nature of professional tennis, and particularly women's professional tennis, it is a grind. Traveling is hard. Traveling is lonely. And those are factors that have a lot to do with. And the number one thing in tennis is injuries. So many great players have seen their careers undercut by injuries. And then you could name a bunch of Canadian players as part of that. Bianca Andreescu, Milos Raonic, all that sort of stuff. So
Bouchard?
Yeah, maybe. Jeannie Bouchard. So to me, it comes down to, can she stay healthy? Can she stay healthy? One of the biggest keys to Roger Federer's greatness was he stayed healthy. Rafa would have won even more if he'd been able to stay healthy. Joker's been, pretty darn healthy and is really taking care of his body, so he's still going. That's a huge part of it. And we saw her hurt her wrist and still win the National Bank Open. So I think that's as much a part. But all the good signs are there. I think there's reason to be excited, and now we'll watch her career unfold. And it's way too early to say whether she's going to be one of the greatest ever or a flash in the pan. We just don't know.
Time will tell. But speaking of Canadian 18-year-old women, have you been following this tremendous meteoric rise of Summer McIntosh?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I was going to ask you, what's going on there? That's quite an. Like, she's poised to kick ass in the next. She'll very quickly become the most decorated Canadian Olympian of all time if she stays healthy.
I mean, with her, I mean, she is the reigning Northern Star Award winner. Used to be known as Lou Marsh.
Right.
I speak to her family a little bit, just in relation to that. I know she's actually, I know she's getting her wisdom teeth out next week, but then she's heading down to Austin to the University of Texas, where she's going to work with a professional group of swimmers down there. And one of the coaches was Michael Phelps's coach. So I think she's really got her eye on making history. And we're going to see if she's able to do that at the Olympics next year.
It's so exciting. Okay, 18-year-old Summer McIntosh from these parts, Tobacco gal.
Yeah, from like phenomenal. I said that recently. So somehow, I was talking about this with guys when I was playing golf down in the Hammer yesterday. Somehow, Hamilton produced the world's best basketball player.
Right.
Tobacco produced maybe the greatest female swimmer in history. We'll see, but probably the greatest Canadian female swimmer.
Right.
And then we've got somebody like Vicky Mboko, who was born in North Carolina, but now I think she lives in Burlington.
That's right.
So, it's kind of amazing, all these athletes from this area.
Look, I'm now on episode 1745, so I'm going to show you the kind of segues I can now execute. This is going to blow your mind, Damien, because you'll think you're on primetime sports with these segues. But I often, recent guest, Devin Haro. Do you know Devin?
Yep.
So Devin, he's kind of like the Summer McIntosh
I don't know him.
whisperer.
I know of him.
He does a great job on CBC. And I consider Devin now, he's kind of like my Summer McIntosh whisperer. Like he was telling me that Phelps news months ago. He's right there talking to Summer McIntosh. He seems to trust him. They have a good relationship. And similarly, do you have a relationship, Damien Cox, with Joe Warmington from the Toronto Sun?
No.
No relationship, but you know of Joe Warmington in the Toronto Sun?
Unfortunately, yes.
Joe Warmington has become sort of the Don Cherry whisperer. Okay? So if you want to know what's going on with Summer, talk to Devin Haro if you're taking notes at home. And if you want to know what's going on with Don Cherry, you got to talk to Joe Warmington. It seems to be the Don Cherry whisperer. Are you still friendly? Because the reason I had this gentleman on the show in the first time as a recommendation from you, are you still friendly with Gare Joyce?
Yes. Yeah, although I haven't talked to Gare in quite a while.
He's in Kingston now.
Yep. He moved down there a couple of years ago, right after COVID, I think.
Pandemic thing.
I mean, in my opinion, still, one of the most talented Canadian sports writers as far as writing ability in particular, and he's a real researcher. I'm a big fan of Gare's, and he's a great guy.
Agreed on all counts, and they brought back that Jason Priestley private practice thing. Like there's a new reboot, so maybe he got a little e-transfer.
He's got his fingers in a lot of pie. There's a guy with a lot of hustle.
He's got the hustle, and he's writing for the Whig Standard.
Yeah.
And he had a call with he had a call with not Don. That's Joe Warmington territory. He had a call with Ron McLean, and this became a big story across this country because Ron talked about that Remembrance Day Coach's Corner that was like that ended up being Don Cherry's last Coach's Corner, that this was part of a Don Cherry exit strategy because in 2019, Don Cherry had a very bad bout with, I believe, pneumonia during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he was hospitalized according to, Ron McLean credited the source, stated the source as Gary Bettman. So it was like, I was told by Gary Bettman he was in the hospital. Bottom line is, this became quite a story. Because you had the pleasure of being on Hockey Night in Canada, and because you know these principals, Ron, Don, could we have a little chat here about like Ron versus Don? Like, do you think Ron is right that in any way this could have been a Don Cherry exit strategy because he wanted in 2019 to wind down due to a health scare?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I've never talked to Don about it. And since I've never talked to Don about it, I would never, ever go and say something about that. So why Ron would be talking about Don by things from Gary Bettman, you'd have to ask Ron. Like, that makes no sense to me at all. And I also, by the way, I mean, we can go back to whether they were right to fire Don or not right to fire Don. And in my opinion, what he said was wrong. And if he had apologized, he probably would have stayed on. But I watched that show, and Ron was he was as complicit in the whole thing and then danced away from it at the end. So, look, I mean, I don't know either guy really well. I know Don better than I know Ron. I've always liked Don, despite the fact that we have very different opinions, and he was always nice to me. I just don't understand why Ron would be going down there. It's not his business to be saying stuff like that, and he shouldn't be saying it.
And apparently this call between Gare and Ron, because I've had Gare on the show to talk about basically the story. Like, well, how did this happen? Gare just wanted to talk to Ron McLean about a cottage that Don owned on Wolf Island that he sold in 2019. So he was like closing that deal the week he was being fired from Rogers Sportsnet.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, what is Don now? 91? Is that
yeah, I think he's 91.
I think at a certain point, how do I want to say this? I think we have to be very careful we're not taking advantage of people when they're not in the limelight quite in the same way anymore, and using them. And I think if Don has something to say, he's got more than enough ways to go out and say it.
That's what Joe Warmington's for.
Yeah, I guess. I'll leave it at that.
I noticed that this research, because Ron versus Don was 2019. Right? Yeah. So we're going back now 6 years or whatever, if my math is right. But like, it seems like it percolated back up because of the fact that the Don Cherry podcast, which I will confess, I've never actually listened to the Don Cherry podcast, but I'm sure it's wonderful. But that, it was promoted on Don Cherry's X account and by his son, Tim, I believe it's Tim, on the podcast, that this was like a finale, like the final episode of the Don Cherry.
I saw that.
So there was kind of news about the final episode of the Don Cherry podcast. So it kind of brought it like, okay, end of an era kind of deal. Like he's done broadcasting. He's going to live out the rest of his life peacefully with his family or whatever. And then the Ron McLean volunteering this info when he was just chatting with Gare about a cottage on Wolf Island, just this exit strategy. And then the disclosure of the health scare in 2019, which Ron's smart enough to know that ain't cool. Like if I happen, and Gare's a good example. Gare has given me permission to speak publicly. He had a health scare with pneumonia, and he's gone on the show. He's been very public about it. He's okay with me talking about. Yeah, really, I think that's part of the reason he went to Kingston during COVID was to get away from people. Real health scare. He almost died. He tells me. So Gare made the choice to be public about his health scare. Don Cherry has the right, in my opinion, to privacy when it comes to his personal health.
I think as a basic rule, you don't talk about other people's health unless you're talking to them, or or if they were ever to give you permission to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that whole thing played out, and I'm not impressed with any of the principles involved in that. And I just feel like why are we doing this to Don Cherry? Just let him do his thing, and that stuff. So, and I don't think when I saw him interviewed on, somebody interviewed him.
It's got to be Warmington. I don't think
but I thought I saw him on TV being interviewed by one of the, anyways, he doesn't seem to really want to get involved in this whole thing. He doesn't want to start fighting with guys and all that sort of stuff. So, right. I think it's in the interest of Joe Warmington to stir it up, and so he's going to stir it up, and that's his business. And he's been doing what he's been doing for a long time, and I'm not his keeper. He can do what he wants, it's all sorts of. Let me say the word I would use is unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate. Very unfortunate that Ron decided to talk about it, and I think it's unfortunate that it blew up into a thing.
And it's worth noting, Don suffered some personal loss recently because he lost his brother and his daughter in the last years. So it's been a
sorry, now I'm sort of going on.
Go ahead.
That. Well, I've had a lot of experience. My father died last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He had dementia. He was 94. I know lots of older people. And I've seen the situations they get into, and how vulnerable they become. And I'm not suggesting that Don's vulnerable or needs somebody looking at him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, I think we need to be very careful and show really great care and respect for people as they age to make sure we're not taking advantage of them. And again, Don would probably say, well, no one's going to take advantage of me. And I'm not saying that, but I get very uncomfortable. I mean, we've seen this before. I get very uncomfortable with interviews with older, whether they're singers, athletes, executives who may not be, able to articulate their point of view or protect themselves in the way they once were able to do. And then I think you're sort of exploiting people, and I don't like to see that happen.
Do you know the name Jeff Lumby?
Yes, he's a radio guy.
He was a longtime radio guy.
Yeah.
He was in Montreal co-hosting a show of Humble Howard Glassman when Humble Howard Glassman was
recruited. I see Howard all the
recruited.
time now, by the way.
Because you're a golf guy.
Yeah. I see him all the time. He's a good golfer.
He's a very good golfer, and he's absolutely addicted to golfing because I even invite him over here and stuff, and he's golf comes first. Like, this is party one.
Yeah,
and
he's intense.
I kind of get it because I have the similar addiction to cycling the city. So I actually totally get that it's kind of like his medicine. He's got to be out there. But Humble Howard was recruited to Toronto to co-host a show on CFNY with Fred Patterson while Howard was co-hosting a show with Jeff Lumby in Montreal. So Jeff Lumby, longtime radio guy, he actually did a summer doing mornings on the Fan 590, like a interim. I think he was replaced by, I think it was like Andrew Crystal came in or something like that.
Oh, boy.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. But I'm mentioning Jeff because he passionately believes that Don Cherry should have the Order of Canada. And I personally, I have my thoughts on this, which is no way Jose, because of the fact that he was so disrespectful of Quebecois. Like, ask your friend and my friend Dave Hodge about Don's refusal to pronounce even the names properly, like Patrick Roy. It's Patty Roy or whatever. I think that alone will, exclude you from the Order of Canada. But what does Damien Cox think about Jeff Lumby's plea to give Don Cherry the Order of Canada?
First of all, I'll say two things. One, that I don't know enough about the qualifications of people for the Order of Canada to speak on it. I would be interested to hear people's why they think he should and why they think he shouldn't before I really had an opinion on it, because I don't know. I mean, I know people who have received the Order of Canada, and they were outstanding people. And they range from, people have lost it, right? Like Buffy Sainte-Marie.
Sure. Well,
lost the Order of Canada. So I think it's certainly a thing that I'm not sure what the Order of Canada exactly recognizes. Don Cherry is without question a very famous Canadian.
Sure.
And I believe that he has made a contribution to the game of hockey, probably more as a broadcaster than as a player or a coach. And I think he definitely should be recognized in the Hockey Hall of Fame with the Foster Hewitt Award. And I think it's a joke that the Broadcasters Association are far too dedicated to making sure each person and all their buddies and play-by-play guys get in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and not recognizing the very, very tremendous contribution he brought to hockey broadcasting in Canada and the United States. So I can't speak to the Order of Canada. I have said for a long time, even though I disagree with almost everything Don says about hockey, I have said for a long time, I think he definitely, particularly when you look at some of the people who are in the Hockey Hall of Fame, I mean, my God.
Are you in there?
No. And I really believe that he deserves to be there. So I'd like to see the Broadcast Association stop patting themselves on the back and doing their buddy thing and recognize Don Cherry.
I have a text here from Kevin Shea who says your mullet is in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Oh, because is the Passion Returns in there?
The Passion Returns VHS is frozen on your mullet.
I've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I've paid.
Did you have to buy a ticket?
I did. I have paid to buy a ticket. I've done broadcasts from the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I don't.
I remember when the Hockey Hall of Fame was on the CNE grounds, and I was working there, and there'd be a thing like, okay, at noon today, Ed Olczyk is going to sign autographs. And I just think, many a time, if depending who was there, I would absolutely line up just to get like an autograph from Ed Olczyk.
Oh yeah, the first professional hockey player first NHL player I ever met was at the Hockey Hall of Fame on the grounds of CNA, Pete Mahovlich.
Wow, that's a big
And he
one.
was the second professional athlete. The first professional athlete I ever met came to my Cubs meeting in Hamilton. That was Tommy Joe Coffey of the Tiger Cats. So I go back. I go back a ways. Yeah.
All right, now we earlier when we talked James Taylor, you mentioned.
Did I mention Don Cherry should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Yeah. I really believe that. That's probably the strongest thing I have to say.
I can get behind that before I can get behind Order of Canada. I have a quick question about Buffy Sainte-Marie, since you mentioned that name. Quite a polarizing item, because there are many, and mainly I noticed it on Facebook, but people who have been on this program who are kind of angry, and I don't blame them for being angry, but I don't know if it's directed at the right people, but angry at the CBC for this Fifth Estate piece, and feels like Buffy, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm paraphrasing this sentiment that I've noticed from several people I know and trust, particularly expressed on Facebook. But like, it doesn't actually matter to them that Buffy Sainte-Marie is an Italian-American who pretended to be an Indigenous person, because of the good that Buffy Sainte-Marie has done for Indigenous people. And I wondered, do you have any thoughts on this? I know my thoughts, but I think people would have heard those before. But what do you think of the fact that of the Fifth Estate story on Buffy Sainte-Marie and the subsequent, taking away the Order of Canada, taking away this, that, the other, many of these things, because she's not Canadian?
I think it was good journalism. Yeah. I think we always want to be trying to uncover the truth, and to see if you can't in all. If you're a journalist, you can't in all good conscience know something and then just say, "Oh, I'm just not going to tell people." Although that happens a lot.
Print the legend.
Yeah, and I think she was given an opportunity to explain herself, and a lot of people who were canceled did not have an opportunity to explain themselves. And I think from everything that I understand, the explanations never made a whole lot of sense, and never made. So I think it's really sad. I think it's sad that she decided to present herself in a certain way, knowing certain things. And I'm not a fan of her music, but I know a lot of people were. And look, I think they can still be fans of their music. You can, Lord knows, from Woody Allen to Kevin Spacey to any number of actors and movie people, you may not agree with what they've done and stuff, but you may still enjoy their performances in their movies and stuff like that. So I certainly wouldn't say I would never listen to Buffy Sainte-Marie, but I think you listen to her and then understand this was her story. And I think it's very unfortunate. It's obviously been very embarrassing for her, and I'm sure heartbreaking. But she made certain choices, I think. Right? She, and if you're going to build a famous career on what was essentially an untruth, that's going to be a tough one to run away from.
You mentioned when you saw James Taylor that he made a brief reference apology, I suppose, for his president's 51st state rhetoric. And we just talked about the Order of Canada and Hockey Hall of Fame, and there is a guy who's got the Order of Canada, although apparently this gentleman never picked up his pin at the ceremony, but he has got the Order of Canada, and he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's a slam dunk if there ever was one. But I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the recent fall, in the eyes of many a proud Canadian, of the great one, who I now call the great ones, number 99, Wayne Gretzky?
Disappointing, really disappointing. At a time, I think, when the country, we didn't even need him to go to bat. All he had to do was say, look, I support this guy because I think he's a great president, but I also support a free and independent Canada. That's all he had to say. Why he would not say that, I have no idea. I've heard from lots of people about what the whys and the wherefores. I haven't talked to Wayne since, maybe before COVID or maybe during COVID. I can't remember. He's always been good to me, so I'm not going to trash the guy, but hugely disappointing. In the same way as Bobby Orr and Jack Nicklaus for their support of a guy who's a convicted felon who's now president of the United States. They choose to look the other way. That's their business. But, I think there was one thing to support Trump and then another to not support a free and independent Canada. I think he went too far. And I think that is going to injure his legacy in this country for a long, long, long time, which is really unfortunate because he always answered the call to play for Canada. He answered the call to run the Olympic team and organize the team that ended the 50-year drought. All those things. Obviously, he's an incredible player. But, look, he's an American now. He's lived in the United States for 40 years. He's made all his money in the United States. His family that lives in the United States. I understand he comes at it from that perspective. As Canadians, I think we had a reasonable right to hope that he would at least say Canada is not for sale. Canada is a free and independent country and will always stay there and must always stay that way.
Right. And
the fact that he didn't is massively disappointing.
I agree. And I think that statement you just made is exactly what I was hoping we'd hear from him, particularly as things came to a boil with the, what was it called again? What was that cup called again?
Oh, the festival.
The four? The Fearsome Four. I'm calling it a new name now. But bottom line is...
Festivus. I think it was the
for the rest
Four Nations Festivus.
The Four Nations Festivus for the rest of us, which, of course, Connor McDavid scored in overtime and Canada won. Yay. But yeah, I just wanted to hear it because we heard from everyone else on his behalf, right?
Yeah.
Doug Ford, his wife, Janet, Bobby Orr, so many people chiming in on behalf of Wayne Gretzky. And I said many, many times on this program, is this man unable to speak for himself? Is there something we don't know? We don't need him. People are like, don't get so, he can, I don't personally really, I'm disappointed. I don't really care if he's a Trumper and he wears a MAGA hat and
I care.
I care, but it's a different level of care that I care that he simply refused to support the sovereignty of this nation that made him.
Yes. I think that's
disappointing. You may use the right word.
And the reality is if you choose to say nothing, that is going to then be taken as he believes that what Trump was saying is true, that maybe he believes Canada would be better off as a 51st state and as, that. And my goodness, that if that were the case, then that would be shocking. And if that were the case, I would say this, if he were ever to say that he is in support of Canada becoming the 51st state, then I would be the first one to say he should lose that Order of Canada. Absolutely. Or that he's never bothered to pick up. I understand. So
I agree.
You're either with us or against us when it comes to basic things like sovereignty. We can all have different political opinions. We can all have, ideas on economics or immigration or all these issues that are difficult and can have multiple points of view, but you don't get to have a different opinion, in my opinion, on whether Canada should be a free and sovereign nation.
The president of the United States literally has stated and is doing his best to economically devastate this country of ours, Damien, until, I guess, I can't remember how he worded it, but until we basically, I don't know, we want to become a part of the United States. Cripple us economically until we come crawling, begging to be a part of the United States. And that disappointment is not the right word. That fucking pisses me off. That makes me want to start a militia group here and get ready here because who knows what's next.
Who knows what's next?
Can I call on you and I start my little renegade force to protect the sovereignty of this nation? Are you in good shape here?
Let me think about that.
Okay, get back to me here. Also, similar, Buffy, who I loved because as a kid I'd watch Sesame Street and she was on it when I was watching, and I consider her like a second mother. I loved Buffy Sainte-Marie, and I loved Wayne Gretzky. This was the guy. I grew up in the early 80s.
Life is full of disappointment, isn't it?
That's why we can always rely on Damien Cox to be consistently crusty, and that's all I ask from you here. Okay, you used to work for Rogers.
Yep. I still appear on the Fan from time to time.
Do they compensate you? Do they give you lasagna, beer, anything?
I can't say.
I'm going to say no. That's my guess. I don't know everybody. I'm speculating. But Rogers now, since your last visit, we can now say Rogers owns almost everything in this country. I mean, thankfully they don't own the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They may own your militia group if you're not careful.
They own almost everything. Like we already did own the Jays, okay? But they own the Leafs, the Raptors, 75% or something. Leafs, Raptors, Argos, TFC, all controlled by Rogers. Mm-hmm. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this ugly?
I can't think it's good. And if you look at the success of those teams, other than the Raptors 6 years ago, it would be hard to say it's been good for, the competitive. Look at the state of the Argos right now. Look at the state of TFC.
But the Argos are defending Grey Cup champions.
Yeah. No, I said right now, though.
I know.
And
what have you done for me lately, Damien?
Well, not just that. Well, whether they won the Grey Cup or not, they got 13,000 fans the other night. It's sad. If not for... It's hard to know where TSN ends and the CFL begins, but if not for TSN's sponsorship basically of the entire league, I can't imagine the Toronto Argonauts would be around. They can't be covering their own bills, that's for sure.
Jeez. Well, now they're in the the Rogers MLSE bucket.
Well, and the thing is, since moving to BMO, that was supposed to save them. MLSE, Larry Tannenbaum, that was supposed to save it. None of it has. None of it's made any difference at all for the past decade.
Well, I think part of the problem, talking to my friends and my kids and my brothers, is this city of Toronto, for better or worse, thinks of the Argos as minor leagues.
I think that's probably true, and there's a lot of NFL interest. That said, the Toronto Scepters have been able to come in and carve out their niche and sell out their games. We'll see how the Toronto Tempo do. I think there's way too many excuse makers for the Toronto Argonauts, and not enough people making, trying to really find out why the city has abandoned them in the way they have. And I think it's sad. I'm a huge CFL fan. I've been a CFL fan since 1969 was my first Grey Cup game that I watched. I have tickets to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I'll be at the Labor Day game. So, I'm as big a fan of this league as anybody, but I'm tired of people saying, oh, well, they don't get the coverage, or they don't do this. There's a million reasons as to why they are the way they are, and I don't think it's coming back. I used to think maybe it's not coming back ever.
Well, that's sad to hear. Now, 13,000. What did they get there? Like 25,000 can fit in that BMO field?
Maybe a bit
like
more than that, I think. But
I know TFC can get 26 or something like that.
TFC is averaging just over 20. So
that's a bad team.
And the Argos are a bad team.
Right.
So the Argos can't even draw what a soccer team can draw in this town. So and you know what? Part of that's a reflection of the city. Part of that's a reflection of football in Canada. Part of that is the nature of the NFL, what a polished, spectacular product it is.
Marketing machine.
Yeah. And it's something that people want to buy. It's no different than, lamenting the fact that Starbucks does so well and the local coffee shop down the road doesn't do as well. Well, the customer's never wrong. That's what people want.
Why didn't MLSE want the Tempo? Why not?
I don't know. I don't know all of that. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how that team does. The Scepters really did something special, and they caught. Why could the Toronto Scepters get that kind of reception that they had to move from a small arena to a bigger arena, And yet we've seen junior hockey fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and failed and time again. So what was it about the Scepters? And I think part of it, my wife is a season ticket holder. I think there's this pent up frustration among women that female sports weren't being appreciated. But I said to my wife for years, you know, when women's sports will do better is when women start going. And let me tell you, women go to see the Toronto Scepters. They go in huge numbers. It's a unique and special atmosphere. I love going to their games.
I was walking with my two older kids in the Junction just the other day, and there's this Tim Hortons at where St. John's hits Dundas, and it's completely pink. Like it's decked out in pink with some kind of a collab, as the kids would say, between the PWHL and Barbie. Like,
it's like, they're doing a whole.
It's quite a big, like you know, everything's pink. Like they reskin the whole store, and it's really a big marketing push. And you're like, oh yeah, that's the Scepters. Like it seems very big.
And the other thing is the Scepters are extremely queer friendly, and there is a chunk of the GTA market that is queer or queer friendly or queer allies, and we're more than happy to find someplace that welcomed them with open arms. And I think that's part of what creates the really cool atmosphere down at Scepters games. It's not exclusively queer people by any by any stretch, but they are very representative. And from what I've been told by members of the queer community that I know, they feel really comfortable and welcome and celebrated.
I'm glad to hear that. Very exciting. I was hanging at a Leafs game, baseball style, like Christy Pitts. Got to be careful when you say Leafs game. With Rob Del Mundo. Do you know this name, Rob Del Mundo? But he's been covering PWHL games, and he was telling me about. And again, Ed Keenan comes on every quarter. He was your colleague at the Toronto Star there, and he's got the season's tickets. And this is a happening thing. The Scepters. I got to get myself to a game because I haven't actually seen.
Oh,
it.
you
I'm embarrassed to tell you I haven't been to a Scepters game yet.
Well, and have you had somebody from them on your show?
I've not,
Natalie Spooner or one of them. You got to get.
I would love it. The way I'm happy, I do pursue people. I say, hey, Damon, do you want to come over? But Mike at TorontoMike.com, like, I am so receptive to pitches. Like, it's like, I would love to do an episode about the Scepters. Absolutely. I want to welcome a new partner here because then I have a big question now that we've introduced the hockey Leafs. I have a big question for you. But Blue Sky Agency is the newest Toronto Mike partner. And Blue Sky Agency, it's a gentleman named Doug Mills who owns Blue Sky Agency. He's forged partnerships with established office furniture brands like Silent and Green Furniture Concept and Rouliard. And Doug Mills is eager to chat with any and all Toronto Mike listeners who are looking for dynamic and creative work environments. So you can reach Doug at blueskyagency.ca. Send him an email, thank him for fueling the real talk over here, and let him know you're an FOTM, and then have a conversation with Doug about dynamic and creative work environments. People are being called back to the office, Damien. Do you know this?
Yes, I am very well aware.
I got a woman upstairs, my lovely wife, who works for one of the big banks, and effective, I guess, the day after Labor Day, they're expected in the office 4 days a week.
Ouch. That's going to change a lot of people's situation, particularly young people with younger families, because daycare is such a massive issue. And so
I have 4 kids too, Damien. I know this. And the other thing is, a lot of people did this move. Maybe they thought the pandemic would last forever, but there was a move to leave the city.
Yes, now they got to come back.
And now they're on the GO train for an hour, and they got a whole massive commute because they've been called back. Which I work out of this basement here, Damien. So I've always been.
This is your permanent studio.
This
I
is
thought
it,
you had
man.
Something bigger.
This is the studio you get to visit. The A-listers meet me at my downtown studio here.
I don't mind being a B-lister or a C-lister.
Well, you get your lasagna, you get your beer. Hey, I want to just give you a piece of advice that there is a cool event happening on the waterfront, August 22nd to the 24th. It's called It is called Taiwan Fest. It's the 20th anniversary of Taiwan Fest at Harbourfront Center, and this year's festival is a dialogue with Portugal. It explores the unique connections between the two cultures. You can discover how artistic traditions connect through Portuguese tiles. You can experience the rich flavors of Hakka culinary traditions, and you can enjoy live musical performances. So, learn more about the shared histories and celebrate the vibrant cultures of Taiwan and Portugal. August 22 to 24, free event at the Harborfront. And of course, before you know it, the air show will be back. There's so much going on the waterfront. Do you ever ride a bike by the waterfront? Do you ever, other than going to Budweiser stage, do you ever find yourself at the waterfront?
I do, and I do cycle, so I do find myself down there.
On the Martin Goodman Trail?
Yeah, and I'm certainly one of those people who thinks the move to remove bike lanes in Toronto is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But I mean, we should be building more. But anyways, that's
so I agree with you on that. And I will just speak again because of where we live. I'll speak specifically to the Bloor bike lanes, which what is it? The Crooked Q. There's a whole bunch of these businesses that are passionately against want to rip up these bike lanes. And I'll just say, as a guy, I got all my kids cycle. I cycle every day, and there is no more. People are like, get it off Bloor. And I'm here to show you a map of Toronto. Please tell me the east-west route that can have the bike lanes instead of Bloor. This does not exist. This is not how you look at a map of Toronto. You can go up to Eglinton, which is 5 kilometers north. You can drop down.
They don't care.
They don't care. Right.
They don't care.
They just don't want us on the road.
No, it's part of this Toronto mentality, and particularly in West Toronto, which it is my right to drive my car, right. And my right to drive my car supersedes your. I'm surprised they let sidewalks. That we don't let cars go on sidewalks. Great opportunity was missed on Bloor. Look, I think that they probably made some mistakes in what they did, how they designed it, and maybe they could have done a better job. And one of the things is, if you're really talking about utility, do we really need the flower beds down the middle? And wouldn't that be a great bike lane right down the middle of Bloor right there? Right down, or use that for cars and leave the bike lanes, there. But it's the usual thing. Let's be loud. Let's yell. And there are people who don't ride bikes. And the people say, well, I don't see anybody on them.
Bullshit.
Yeah, well, and also, you don't see anybody on them because we do everything we can in this city to discourage bike riders because they're likely to be killed. And so if you make it safer, then people will do it. If you make a clean lane all the way from the west end of Toronto, downtown Toronto, people will use it because it's a lot faster because you can't drive your car. It took me to get to somewhere on Spadina the other day. It took me an hour and a half.
I can't imagine.
If I'd ridden my bike, it would have taken me 25 minutes. So, but that's a fight. I don't know whether we're winning or losing. I'm glad to see Justice Paul Shabas with his ruling recently. I know him, and I was thrilled to see that. Whether this government wants to use notwithstanding clause to do anything. That's wrong. So I'm sure they'll do that and then start building their tunnel into the 401 or whatever idiotic idea the idiotic Doug Ford has in mind.
Well, when your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, and here's a nicer piece of advice, which is that if you, Damien Cox, have old electronics, old devices, old cables, maybe you have a drawer or a room full of this stuff. I don't know. But don't throw that in the garbage, Damien, because those chemicals end up in our landfill. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. Put in your postal code and find out where you can drop all of that off to be properly recycled.
I take mine to the dump.
No, well, I mean,
the disco, I can tell you, not to promote the Toronto landfill, but the Disco Road landfill, they're great people up there. They're the nicest people. If you ever want to go to the dump, the best people work at the dump. And that's where I take electronics because they'll be disposed of properly.
And next time I'm talking about Great Lakes, you'll tell me about how much you like a good Budweiser. It's
Well, I'm just saying, these people that you're promoting, that's also great work. So
it's all good. Just don't throw it in the garbage. That's all we're asking.
Exactly.
Here.
That's the point.
We're on the same page here. You're good. You're a good man. You know how to play ball. Shanahan, Brendan Shanahan, Mimico guy. What were your thoughts when Keith Pelly relieved Brendan Shanahan of his duties?
Well, I didn't understand why. It wasn't articulated well. Keith's a friend of mine. I and even more to the point, I don't understand not replacing him. Like basically, it seemed to me a body to throw overboard. It was a scapegoat.
Right.
Let's people, 10 years and they didn't do this. Well, David Poile was in Nashville for 20 some years and he's in the Hall of Fame. And so, if your only thing is, well, he's been there and okay, so now he's gone. So apparently he was the reason. His mere presence and the presence of anybody holding the role of president of the Toronto Maple Leafs was the number one reason they didn't win the cup last year.
Right.
Okay, now go win the cup.
Well, there's another scapegoat, sort of, because the question came in from Hey Ref. Hey Ref writes in, did the Leafs make a mistake in terms of not going after Mitch Marner?
Yes.
Or should they have let him go?
Yes.
But do you think Mitch would have stayed? I had a vibe he was
I don't know.
Here.
I think that was, I don't know. But I mean, I think they made it clear that that's not what they wanted. And they were looking for scapegoats and they found them. And like, I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and I see a team that in the final 4 games against the Florida Panthers, or the final 3 or 4 games, they scored 4 goals. So the answer to this is to fire the president and get rid of your leading scorer.
Right.
And this makes sense to somebody?
Well, I think there was a consensus that you can't keep running back the same core because clearly
everybody runs back the same core in the league because you can't. The nature of the salary cap and the contracts. Name me a team that's not running back the same group next year. Like it's so ridiculous to say you can't keep doing this. Now, I understand that they wanted to get away from the model of if this was the case. I mean, they don't articulate any of these things. They just sort of go blah, 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 blah. If they wanted to get away from the model of spending a huge chunk of their payroll on just high-scoring forwards, I get that. So why is John Tavares back? He didn't score in 6 of 7 games against
But he's
the
back at a
Panthers.
discount, right?
Right, but like if the whole idea is to, and he's 37 years old, but why his production was as weak or weaker than Mitch Marner, and he's older. Like I just don't understand the logic here. And look who they're bringing in, the guys. So, we'll see. We'll see what they're going to do. Their general manager has a thoroughly mediocre record everywhere.
Right.
So now maybe this is the point in his career where he's going to blossom into one of the best in the league. That could happen. They've got good goaltending. And I should say as well, when people, they lost to Florida and, it's time for a change. If Anthony Stolarz doesn't get hurt in the first game, what happens then?
I agree. We went 7 games with the Stanley Cup champs. Edmonton didn't take him 7.
So why did Brendan Shanahan have to be fired? What did that accomplish exactly?
Do you think maybe it was just 10 years, good run, let's move on? Maybe it was a mutual decision. Who knows?
I think since Keith Pelly arrived, Brian Manning fired as running the Argos and TFC. Masai Ujiri.
Well, I was going to ask you about him next.
Fired. Brendan Shanahan fired. None of them, as of yet, replaced. Now, the Raptors are going to play. So, to me, that looks like big cost savings. Those are Ujiri and Shanahan probably making $10 million or more between them. That's a nice little thing to be able to say to Edward Rogers, look, we're saving you some money.
I know, except that in the world of MLSE, I feel like $10 million is like if I lent you $10 or something,
Yeah, well,
But every dollar matters at Rogers. The big red machine, oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so just to wrap up the hockey talk, you've been amazing. Always. Now I remember why I invite you on every year or so, because I enjoy these.
I'm still wondering why, but anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter what you think. It only matters. Haven't you learned that yet? Okay.
I have learned.
It only matters what I think. So, Hey Ref had a follow-up, which is, will the NHL ever have female officials on the ice?
I would think so, yes.
Who's calling you? Is that Gare Joyce? Is it Gare?
No.
Because he's watching live, so he heard the praise reaped on him.
I'm glad to hear he's alive.
He's alive and well.
Yes,
stirring the shit in Don versus Ron.
I'm sure he is. And the best part about that, right, is Gare's not really a shit disturber, so I'm sure he didn't go out to do that.
He was talking about a cottage. That's the best part, right? He's talking about a cottage. And it was a great, by the way, the long...
But he is smart enough to know a news story when he sees one.
That's it, because he took that and made it a standalone thing, which makes the noise. And then his long-form thing about Dawn in the cottage was actually excellent.
Yeah.
It was a really good...
He's well.
I think it was in the National.
He's a good writer, but I'm done stroking Gare, and I'm not going to say anything nice about Gord either. I'm done talking about all these other people.
They're not so nice. Okay. So we will eventually, in your opinion, in the near future, at some point.
I think so. I think so. Why wouldn't we?
Good question.
And it probably is overdue. And now you've got a league, women's league, quality women's league in North America, which has a lot of female officials. So I would think somebody's going to get an opportunity at some point.
What did you think of the Masai Ujiri firing?
It seemed to kind of be in the wind. And again, contrast that with the Leafs situation. So you can say, yeah, Masai won a championship. Shanahan didn't.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you go fast forward to now, the Raptors have been out of the playoffs for having it, and the Leafs are a first-place team that challenged the Stanley Cup champion. So I guess everybody goes. I have yet to understand, and I can honestly say I have not had an opportunity really to sit down and talk to Keith. What is the plan here? What is there? Is there an overarching plan here for MLSE to make all these teams champions? Because, deleting qualified and talented executives has to have a point at some point. And, I guess obviously he feels that streamlining the organization and making these various teams, general managers report directly to him is one way to do it. Keith's a very competent and confident and talented executive. And so that puts a lot on his plate, and we'll see what he can do. All these teams are facing real questions. And the most successful team right now, it seems right now in the city, is the team that is not affiliated with MLSE, and that's the Blue Jays.
Yeah, we're going to get a little... My last question is a little Blue Jays talk right now. What role do you think Edward Rogers played in the dismissal of, let's face it, a guy who's beloved in this city, Masai Ujiri?
Don't know. I who knows? I'm assuming he was in agreement with it. That would be all I could...
I just wondered, forget agreement, I wondered if maybe he was a catalyst.
Yeah, I would not know. So I wouldn't even...
Gare, get on that story, buddy. Okay, we want that story here, please. Okay. I had an episode recently, Hamiltonian Stephen Brunt was my guest, and we had some guys from this day in Dave Stieb history.
Do I have to say nice things about Stephen? Is that why you just bring up everybody and then I say
no, because I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have bad things to say about Stephen?
I have no bad things to say about Stephen.
Okay, Stephen Brunt, probably in Newfoundland right now. It's August 14th.
He is, and in fact, we're almost at, or are we in the middle of his annual music and literary festival,
Woody
at
Point.
Woody Point, which I have attended a couple times, which is fantastic, and I would recommend to anyone to go.
And I often say I want to go, so maybe one
you should
day
go.
I want to go. I want to go. Damn it! Okay, I've never been to Newfoundland.
Oh, it's the west part of Newfoundland is it's mind blowing. It's fantastic.
It's on the list here. Okay, but we did an episode basically making the case for why Dave Stieb should be in Cooperstown in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay,
he
believes that.
He believes that, yes. And many others do too. And if you look at the analytics, they support the case. I wondered, I know you're the hockey guy back then, but you were watching a lot of Jays when Dave Stieb was the ace. Do you think Dave Stieb belongs in Cooperstown?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm putting you on the spot, Cox.
So here's that's the difference between the Cooperstown and the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Hockey Hall of Fame is inclusive. Everybody gets in, except Don Cherry. Right? Everybody gets in.
Right.
Now they're even letting Alexander Mogilny get in,
right.
After shunning him for ridiculous reasons.
It's the Hall of Very Good.
And it is not accountable. They have a secret handshake. They don't tell you who gets nominated or why anybody does. So that's the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now the Baseball Hall of Fame is exclusive. and they tell you exactly who voted for who. I'm going to, when it comes to Dave Stieb, I'm going to let those voters, because they'll tell you exactly why they think certain people will get in. As a Toronto Blue Jay observer and to some degree a fan, it'd be great to see Dave Stieb. He was an outstanding pitcher, for this team for a number of years. But I don't really have a strong feel of who gets in. I think the numbers, it's all about the numbers in baseball. Either you have the numbers or you don't have the numbers. And if he has the numbers, then he should be in.
But historically, they overvalued numbers like wins.
Right.
And therefore, when it comes time to look at awards, like Cy Young Award, for example, people like Dave Stieb don't win Cy Young Awards because they finish like 17-10 or something like that. And the guys like Jack Morris, for example, that's the guy I always compare him to. If you look at the numbers and you get on your experts, you'll hear Dave Stieb had a better career than Jack Morris, but one is in the Hall of Fame, and the other got like less than 5% of the votes or something. It wasn't even close. So it's just interesting to compare and contrast. Because Dave Stieb, for a couple of quick things, says one is, you may know, his best years were spent playing in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Back in a day when would you see a Jays game back then, right? And then secondly, maybe you know this as well, Dave Stieb was not a very friendly guy when it came to the people covering him.
Yeah, but neither was Steve Carlton, right? So, I think if the numbers are there, the numbers should be there. Baseball's full of guys who weren't friendly, and so I'm trying to think if I ever dealt with Dave Stieb. Maybe once upon a time. I will say this about Halls of Fame in general. People get all tied up in knots about them, and I just made a strong case for somebody in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Right.
But they really are kind of anachronisms, and really what they are vehicles through which their sport sells stuff. Sell the game, sell merchandise, sell their stars, so you will buy. People treat them like they are museums, and they are museums because they have sticks and bats and all those sorts of things in them. But in terms of who gets in and who doesn't, it's kind of like, for me, at my stage, I don't really care. I really don't care that much. There will be, I don't like to see injustices. I did not like to see, I was a huge proponent of getting women in the Hockey Hall of Fame because that just seemed fair. I will always fight for fairness. It didn't make sense to me that Alexander McGillney wasn't in, and other people who have less talent were in. I don't see Dave Stieb at this point as a huge fairness issue that I'm willing to go to bat for, in the same way that I'm willing to go to bat for Don Cherry being in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, speaking of people not going to bat for Dave Stieb in Cooperstown, Rogers doesn't seem to give a shit. Like, they're completely quiet on the whole thing. Like, I don't think Rogers is eager to push Dave Stieb for Hall of Fame for whatever that's worth. But more importantly, Dave Stieb, there were players in the Hall of Fame who were like, their greatest advocate was they would basically make the rounds explaining how they were slighted and this is why I belong in. Dave Stieb never promotes himself as Hall of Fame worthy.
Maybe he doesn't care.
I don't think he cares. So
Maybe
then
he's got
that's
a good
where I
life,
get stuck.
right?
Because I did this episode, and the guys from Len Lumbers and Blake Bell, the two gentlemen from the Today in Dave Stieb history who were in the basement for that episode, they're so passionate about this and doing so much work to get some traction going because it's, for Dave Stieb to be in Hall of Fame. But where it ends for me, where the buck stops for me, is if Dave Stieb doesn't care, like, I don't know how much I have to care. Like, maybe I don't care, but it is a fun conversation piece at a bar.
It doesn't change anything, right? It doesn't really change our memories of Dave Stieb as a pitcher, the one-hitters and trying to get the and I mean, he was a character in this town for a long period of time. Yeah, there's so many people here, and I see this from media people all the time who think it's about legacy and leaving behind a legacy. Once you're dead, you're dead. And
shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
Yeah, there you go. So, do what you can, play your career, do your writing, do your broadcasting, do your podcasting, and then whatever it is, the halls of fame and all this sort of stuff, I kind of start losing interest at a certain point.
Yeah, it's all different layers of bullshit. Who cares? Okay, that's my words. Okay, you can quote me on that. I'm going to close with the Blue Jays because if you had talked to me, and people did, I had over Keegan Matheson and I did a Mike Wilner episode, and I had no hopes for this particular Blue Jay team back in April. And as we speak on August 14th, 2025, they're in first place in the American League. Here's the question that came in from Brian. I'm curious, as with the Jays now being the story here, use more commas, Brian, it'll be easier for me to read this. TSN begrudgingly, this is Brian's words, TSN begrudgingly has to cover them more. Clearly, I see it on Overdrive, with them leading with them and having Keegan Matheson as part of the panel now, where in the past they would have be reached for a segment. Have the networks now realized that regardless of what rights they own, they have an obligation to cover properly for their audience what is most newsworthy for them?
Yeah, no. I mean, Sportsnet doesn't cover the CFL.
That's a great reversal. That's a great example. Yeah.
Although we'll see what happens now. Like Rogers owns the controls MLSE, which controls the Argonauts. So you do wonder if that'll change, particularly when the TV deal comes up next year. I think that has not served the CFL well to have all their ducks in the. And I'm mixing my metaphors. All their eggs in the TSN basket means nobody else covers the league. Networks cover what's in their interests. They don't know or where
they don't have a journalist. It's the toy department, right? They don't have a journalistic responsibility.
Yeah, and how many people were over watching Summer McIntosh when she was, performing in Singapore a couple of weeks ago? Right.
But when it comes to swimming, because I'm a Olympic swimming fan. So if it's Olympics, I'm tuned in for all the... No,
but the point I'm making is this is not an altruistic enterprise. They're going where they think the viewers or the readers are, so they can bring them to their advertisers. Right. And that's what it is all about. And so the reality is when it comes to the Canadian Football League and the Toronto Argonauts, Rogers believes there's no audience there for the Canadian Football League that their advertisers are interested in. So they're going to go do something else. And TSN now believes that there's so much interest in the Blue Jays, they have to be covering it for their advertisers. It's like, this is sports entertainment. This is a business. People think it's all about right and wrong and character and legacy and winning and losing. It's business. And that's what TSN is doing, I assume, by, signing a good reporter and doing good coverage of the Blue Jays.
And let's face it, in this market, you can probably get away with not covering the Argos. But when your Blue Jays are in first place in August, TSN can't really get away with not covering it because that's what people want to talk about. That's what people want to hear about. So
absolutely.
So they have to cover. They basically, it's in their own best interest to cover the Blue Jays.
Yeah. I mean, I think right now in this town, I haven't seen any. It was always the Leafs, number one. And then the Blue Jays, and then the Raptors kind of overtook the Blue Jays. But now I think the Blue Jays would be back in second. You can't consider yourself a serious news organization, sports news organization, not cover the Blue Jays if you're in Toronto right now.
Interesting. So TSN hasn't called you up and said, "Hey, Damo, we need your hockey analysis."
No, they haven't.
The phone's not ringing.
They got lots of hockey people.
So
I haven't got a call from them or the Hockey Hall of Fame. So there you go.
You could be in the builders category. What is the is Milt Donnell in the builders category or something of the Hockey Hall of Fame?
I don't know.
Just asking the big questions here.
I don't know.
Since I'm talking to a guy who actually knew Milt, which is cool.
The greatest. He was the greatest.
Do you remember what you told me your first visit when I asked you, what is it? When Milt Donnell told you that Bill Barocco. You're talking about Bill Barocco. Do you remember this?
It was that he told me he skated like, you reminded
John
him
Cordick.
of, no, it wasn't John Cordick. It was somebody else. Anyways.
I just thought it was a funny, because
maybe it was John Cordick skated like this guy. I think that's what it was.
I think this is how I remember it anyways, a copy of a copy, but I think I was asking you if you and Milt ever talked about Bill Barocco, because Milt would have seen Bill Barocco play. Because we've got him now, because of the hip and because of this legacy, we've got him as like an angel of some kind of hockey god, saint who died young and was going to be the next Bobby Orr or something. And then you asked Milt, like, who in the modern game would you compare to Bill Barocco? And I believe Milt told you John Cordick.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And I bring it up once in a while because I think I really do think we've decided, some of us youngsters, as Gen Xers who love the tragic hip, have decided Bill Barocco was like, this is the
he
next
was Bobby Orr before he was and he wasn't.
He was John Cordick.
Yeah, he was kind of a rough and ready character who had played his hockey in Hollywood, in California, before finally getting called up to the league. Like, my understanding was, even though he was playing for the Leafs in a 6-team league, he wasn't a great player. Now, whether he would have become a better player, I don't know, but he wasn't a great skater. But he figured in a very famous goal and more important than that, a very famous picture.
A very famous goal,
and now a very
famous
famous legend,
and a very famous exit. You got it. It's like Seinfeld, right? It's like, that's it for me.
Yeah. Is time for me to go now?
Well, it is pretty much time for you to go because you've been amazing. Is there anything else that, I guess my big question for you is, do you think this Blue Jays squad, which has overperformed and is entertaining, could they win the World Series?
Okay, here's what I'm going to say to that. I don't know. But they need George Springer back. And if Shane Bieber can come in and really shore up that starting staff and be, a regular pitcher for the rest of the way, then they could win.
Can you think of a bigger, let's pretend this happens, okay? This is a big hypothetical. Blue Jays win the World Series in 2025. Is there a Toronto example of overachieving and exceeding expectations that you can compare to that? Because we thought the 2019 Raptors were going to be competitive, and that TFC team that won, whatever that was, 2017.
But the Raptors team that won was not the favorite against Golden State.
Not the favorite, but it was with Kawhi Leonard. It was a potential.
There is a certain amount of the 92, 93 Leafs about this Blue Jays team, and everybody loves a team that kind of comes out of nowhere.
Sure, but that team didn't even make the finals.
Right. So if they were to win, that I
just don't think I can't think of, unless we go way back to the original 6 era or something, I can't think of a Toronto comparable where, although I live in Toronto, we've got the 2 World Series and the 1 Larry OB, and in my lifetime, 0 Stanley Cup final appearances. So go Jays, go. Thank you for this. I enjoyed this. You'll be back in about a year. I'll put it in your calendar.
It's good to know. I'm going to run out of things that are going to interest you.
No, I got lots of music stuff.
Eventually, I'm going to be calling you, and you're going to say, I don't want you anymore. You have nothing more to say. I feel that's just around the corner.
Nothing more to say, he says, an hour and 52 minutes later. So we filled the time. I was entertained. And really, at the end of the day, Damien, that's all that matters. And that brings us to the end of our 1,745th show. Go to TorontoMike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Is there anywhere in the social media universe that you actually keep a presence, Damien Cox?
No.
So you got to go through me if you want to know what's going on. Yeah. I am the Damien Cox Whisperer.
Gee, what an exciting thing for you.
Worms can talk to Cherry. Okay. And I can talk to Cox. So, okay. Much love to all who made this possible. That is Great Lakes Brewery. Damien's got his beer.
Yep.
Palma Pasta.
You're gonna pull some of these out and put some more lagers in there.
Remind me. The Pale Ale, which is like their biggest seller.
Is it?
Yeah, the Canuck. It's coming out, and I'm gonna get you some premium lagers. Great beer. Palma Pasta.
Yep, right here in the box.
That box is empty. It's in my freezer.
I got the book.
You got the book on Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. I'll let you know when the playoffs are, and I'll talk about it here because I'm going to be at Christie Pittsburgh playoffs. You got the tape measure. That is Ridley Funeral Home. RecycleMyElectronics.ca has to start giving something away. Where are they? And of course, Toronto's Waterfront BIA. Get your butts to the waterfront this summer. And the newest sponsor, once again, welcome Doug Mills and Blue Sky Agency. See you all tomorrow. This is going to be exciting, I think. Dropping by is Tom Brown You might remember Tom Brown from Toy Mountain and CTV Toronto personality, big personality. He's going to come by tomorrow, tell me where he's been, what happened, and all of that. Tom Brown makes his Toronto Mike debut tomorrow. See you all then.